Welcome back to Books with Beck. I'm Beck. Let's talk books. It is officially time for my very first 2025 reading wrap-up. So today's reading wrap-up is going to cover January through April. In these first 4 months of 2025, I have read 19 books. Now I know that can be a lot, that can be a little, it depends on where you are as a reader. For me, that's not very much. And I am not going to be hard on myself about it. It's not like I have a true reading goal. By no means do I have to hit that. I just think that personally, I have not been reading. And it's just, life has happened. That's it. Life has happened. So we had a couple of deaths in the family. I've been having state testing going on since I'm a teacher. I've just been kind of having some seasonal depression. It is what it is. So I have not been reading like I should. And I just want to dive back into it. So I thought it'd be good to wrap up the first 4 months, tie it up with a little bow, and move on. I have 19 books to show you today. I'm going to go ahead and give you a rating, my general thinking, and my recommendations. So I went ahead and pulled any books that I had physically. A lot of the books I actually did read on my Kindle, so I don't have them to talk about. But here is my little pile of books. It does help to see like the actual pages, and this isn't even all of the books. There's quite a few that I don't have here. So to think I read all of these pages, that does help me feel better. I feel better now. Thank you. So as I'm doing these reviews, I am not going specifically in order of when I read the books, but I am going in order and then adding some series. So there are some series that I read kind of like mixed throughout these books, and it doesn't make sense to review them separately. So I'm going to go ahead and just push them together regardless of the time frame that I actually read them. So my very first read of 2025 was The Serpents and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. I actually did really enjoy this book, but I did still rate it 3.5 stars. This book is about vampires, and it's very much ACOTAR reminiscent, and that is what everyone said whenever I was reading it. They're like, it's ACOTAR with vampires. You're gonna love it. I liked it. I did like it. I just felt like it was a little forced, but it's still a really good series, and I am going to continue to read the continuations of this series. So within this book, we're given Araya and Rain, okay? And Araya enters into the Kajari tournament basically to prove herself and to find her place within society, okay? Rain and her develop a romance, and they are the final two standing within the tournament. And there's this huge twist, I guess you could say, at the end. And it's definitely not something you're expecting. And I think that's why I rated it lower. Personally, whenever I read a romance, I prefer if the guy is all about whatever is best for the girl. Now, yes, in the long run, I found out that was the case here, but I couldn't see the picture clearly at the end of this first book. The interesting thing about this series is that it's written in duologies. So since I really love the best friend character within this story, I'm excited to read the next duology because I've heard that's her love story and her focus. The next book in that series is The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. This is the second piece of that duology, and I rated this 3 stars. I understood the characters' motivations more in this book, and I got to have a little bit of a deeper dive within the characters and really fall in love with them. I just think it was good. It was good. It's just not my favorite. That's all there is to say about it. By no means is this a bad book. By no means am I saying it's not worth reading. It was just not my favorite. I think because I was given the standard of it's ACOTAR with vampires, I wanted it to be ACOTAR level. And it just didn't reach that for me because what I love so much about ACOTAR is the found family. And this has that, but not near as much of a community, like family full of characters that you fall in love with. So for me, it was good. It's done. That's all. My next read for 2025 was also a part of a series. So I'm going to go ahead and review that all together as well. So this was the To All the Boys I've Loved Before series by Jenny Han. And I have always loved this movie. My husband and I think it's just so cute. It's kind of sentimental to us because of some stuff that we're experiencing when the movie came out, and we just watched it all the time. So I was really excited to get into these books. I actually thrifted the entire series in one day, so it was kind of like a perfect storm to read them. There's so much dust flying around from my books. Oh my gosh. So this series is 3 books, and this is a young adult romance series. The first one in the series is To All the Boys I've Loved Before. I rated this one 3.5 stars. So this is the introduction to our characters, Laura Jean Covey and Peter Kavinsky. Basically what happens is she, as a young romantic, she writes letters to any of the boys that she has had crushes on to kind of like get it out of her system so she can get over the crush. And one day her sister gets mad at her and mails them all out, and they all receive their letters. And it's basically just this influx of chaos because she's very much like the quiet, no one really talks to her girl. She's very cute, has her friends, but she's just not that popular. So it's very overwhelming for all of these men to show up and be like, hey, I got this letter. And it basically tells you the start of her love story with Peter Kavinsky, one of the letter recipients. And it's just really cute. I actually really did enjoy this more than the movies because it gives you a lot more about the characters, which was awesome. The next two are Always and Forever, Laura Jean, and P.S. I Still Love You. So this one starts to dive in more to when they're more of a couple. It's a stronger, deeper input into their relationship. And then this one is sort of like that decision of going to college and spreading your wings and choosing whether or not that relationship is going to fit. So I'm not going to say too much about the rest of the series just because I don't want to spoil it for anyone that does want to read it, but I will go ahead and give you a rundown of ratings. So like I said, I rated the first one 3.5 stars. The second one I rated 3 stars. And the last one in the series I rated 3.5 stars. So overall, this series, it was just so cute, so happy, great little love story. And I think that this is something I would recommend to a young reader, especially someone that's a romantic, because this really does show you the inner monologue of someone who does expect a lot from the man that she's with, but is still figuring it out. Like, she's a kid. She's literally a kid. So it's cute to see how she kind of like interprets things and the expectations that she sets. And I love to see a teenager set boundaries with a boyfriend. So this is really cute if you have a young reader in your life. Trying to get this one out of the pile is... Okay. It now, in the year scope timeline, has hit mid-January, which you all know means Onyx Storm. Now, if you have watched my Onyx Storm review video, you already know my perspective on this book, and you can go watch that if you would like a deeper insight. This was not my favorite book in this series. I gave this 4.7 stars. I gave this book 4.75 stars still, okay? It's still a very good book. Rebecca Yarros has brilliant storylines, brilliant characters. I just think that she could use an editor so bad. There's a lot of pieces that were confusing to a lot of the readers just because we were given someone for 3 seconds and then suddenly they're a major character in this book. Backstories weren't developed. Backstories weren't developed and things were just missing that I think really could have added to this story. Now, if you don't know anything about Onyx Storm, this is the 3rd book in the Empyrean series by Rebecca Yarros that focuses on a young girl who goes to a dragon college. Basically, a rebellion starts, and that's the follow-through of that series. So this is what you would say is a romantasy series, and I will continue to read it. I will. I just think that maybe we need some things fixed. Maybe we need to just add on a few more pages or take away a lot of pages in different departments, if that makes any sense. So yes, would read again, still love it. Just had some notes and I would love to sit down with Rebecca for coffee. Please, Rebecca, call me. The next book that I read for 2025 was Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. Now, if you have known me at all in my life, you know that Harry Potter is a pinnacle of who I am as a person. So the fact that I'm just now reading these independently as an adult is insane, but they were read to me as bedtime stories. So they've always been in my heart, but now as an adult, I was able to really dive in and read them. This was the final one within the Harry Potter series, and it crushed me. I was bawling at the end of this book, and it was just so beautiful. Like, if you love the Harry Potter movies, you have to read the books. I'm so glad that I went back and reread them because I think as a kid, getting them as bedtime stories, I loved the stories. But as an adult, you're able to pick up on so many more themes and hidden things, and you're able to appreciate more, blah, blah, blah. But I will not speak about this book without addressing the fact that J.K. Rowling sucks, but I digress. Our next book for the year is The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. Last year, I read The 7-Year Slip and absolutely fell in love with it, so I knew whenever I saw this that I had to give it a try. I did rate this book 4 stars. I really, really enjoyed it. I thought that the characters were extremely lovable, and so was the setting. This setting kind of just felt like a sleepy town, but to me, it was super cozy and not whimsical, but almost kind of like ethereal, I guess you could say. I absolutely loved it. And it was a very interesting storyline of this girl whose family has always owned a funeral home. Her dad could see ghosts, and now she could see ghosts. But of course, that made her childhood very hard, and it made it to where people kind of, left her out of things. She was just neglected from society. So she moves away and becomes a writer, editor. Problems are happening, and there's romance there, okay? She goes back home because her dad has passed, and suddenly she starts seeing her editor in her hometown, and I think she realizes, oh, this is a ghost. So they end up trying to figure out how to get him back into reality, and they, of course, fall in love. It was very, very sweet, and it did touch on the family aspects and what it means to leave home, which is something that I have done. So that was kind of an emotional thing for me. So maybe that's why I rated it a little bit higher. It may not be 4 stars for everyone, but I really did enjoy this book. And I don't know if Ashley Poston has more books out. Those are the only 2 that I've read. So if you've read Ashley Poston, let me know if you have any recommendations. The next book for 2025 was The Book Thief by Mark Zuzak. This is my very first 5-star book for 2025. Yay! This book is absolutely amazing. I wish I would have read it sooner. I guess I was intimidated because it is YA and because of the length. I just didn't know if I was going to like it, blah, blah, blah. Finally read it, and I am so, so glad that I did. Now, this book, I'm not going to tell you too much. That way I don't spoil things. I do encourage you to read it. I think that this is one of those that everyone should read. Basically, it is a third-person point of view story telling the story of the book thief, which is a little girl who, her mother was taken by soldiers, and she is now being raised in a different household. But throughout the pinnacles of her life, she is getting books. Like, she just gets curious and she'll grab a book. And the first book that she gets, she doesn't even know how to read. So then she gets taught to read, and all this beautiful story happens, right? But she is in the front, not the front lines, because she is not in a Jewish community, but she's in a German community that has a lot of Nazis. Like, she's living next door to Nazis, and it's expected that she holds the same viewpoint and that her family holds the same viewpoint. Now, they obviously don't, but they are kind of pretending to do so to keep themselves safe. They end up harboring a Jew, and all of these different things happening. So the characters are extremely lovable, and you will cry. You will cry. I just wish I could read it again for the first time. And the really cool thing about it is that there's a notebook, because obviously she's the book thief. She gathers books. There's a notebook that is one of the books that she takes, and within it there are sketches and things like that. And so within the actual book, you get to see the sketches that it's describing within the text. So this is one that I would definitely suggest you read the actual physical book. That way you're able to appreciate those things along with it. I know there's a movie for this, and I have not watched it because it's not available anywhere. I'm about to pay for it at this point. So let me know if the movie is worth it, because if I spend $7.99 and it sucks, I'm gonna be very upset. My next read was The Crash by Frida McFadden, and I was so excited for this book. I had it on my TBR. I was ready because I was like, yay, a new release from Frida McFadden. I love her so much. I hated this book. I hated this book. I rated this book 2.5 stars. Here's the thing. Frida McFadden is a machine. She puts out books like they're candy. Like, it does not bother her to put out books. But I think she should slow down, because recently her books have lost momentum, they've just become dull. And that's really unfortunate, because some of her older books that really got me onto her are so interesting, have great plot twists, really grab your attention. And now I just feel like everything is a little bit forced. She has another, I think, 3 books coming out this year, and I think that it's just too much. Slow down, hone your craft, because this was not good. This pregnant girl is headed to go visit her brother. She got pregnant by her professor, and that's causing some legal issues. So she's gonna go visit her brother. Suddenly her car crashes. This man picks her up and takes her to his home. And I know what you're thinking. Hold on. How can I tell you? Basically, she ends up being trapped at this house, and it is the story of like getting out, figuring out what is going on, and blah blah blah. I felt like it was extremely predictable, and it just didn't have any sort of major twist. You knew what was happening the second it happened. There was no figuring it out, which is the best part of Freida McFadden books. So it just fell flat for me. I read it. I'm going to read the next one. I'm going to read the one after that. I'm probably going to read the one after that. I will continue to try and search for the Freida McFadden feeling, and I need her to give it to me soon or she will lose me. My next read was another banned book. This is Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. This book is extremely short, so I encourage you to read it. It takes place in a dystopian future where books are the enemy because they have fed these lies to society in which books and music and entertainment that is not controlled is making people go crazy, which actually what the crazy was any sort of mental health or emotion. So it's very, very interesting and relevant to today's timeline. I really did enjoy it. Personally, the movie, I liked the movie. I just felt like it didn't capture the same essence of the book and the confusion. In the movie, it was like suddenly Michael B. Jordan knows everything that's going on and he totally understands. And that's not what I felt like in the book. The book was extremely confusing as to what was happening, and some of those side characters got taken out. So if you've watched the movie and you didn't like it, just read the book. Read the book. And it's a short read, so it's a low commitment. I rated this book 3.5 stars, and the reason I rated it 3.5 stars was just because I wanted it to be a lot longer. It could have expanded a lot more on things, but I think now looking back that this was 100% intentional by the author because he wanted you to feel as confused as the citizens of society felt, which I can recognize that now, but I'm still mad about it. I still want more story and I want to know more about what's happening after and all of that. So that is my biggest complaint with this, is that I wanted more. I wish it could have been 3 times this length, but I also understand why the author chose to do that. So overall, highly recommend this if you have not read it. Next on the list is This Spells Love by Kate Robb. Now, if you watched my I Read a Book in One Sitting video, you already know a lot about this book. I loved this book so much. Cheeky, cute, fun. It did have quite deep meaning within it for certain people. I'm not going to say that everyone is going to get something really deep out of this book. It's just a cutesy little romance, but it does address the feeling of kind of like the butterfly effect or a ripple effect that every single person that comes into your life does influence it in some way, positively or negatively, to help you learn something. Like that really is what I love so much about this book, and that is why I rated it 4 stars. This story talks about a girl who is in a relationship that ends, and she wants to forget about her ex entirely, just to free her head from the stress and stop thinking about him, blah, blah, blah. So she casts this spell. And of course she doesn't think it's really gonna come true. She thinks her aunt is kind of crazy, whatever, but she does it. And it causes her entire life to go off track. And basically this is best friends to lovers. It's cute, it's whimsical, but it's not so far removed from reality that it's fantasy. It's just cutesy, little whimsical fun. And I would recommend it if you are a romance lover. This next book was a book recommendation by my husband. This is Lore by Alexandra Bracken. I rated this book 4 stars. At first, I did not like it, but as the story developed, I really did fall in love with the storyline. I am not someone who really loves the Greek god and goddesses storylines, but this one was within modern timeline, and it tells the story of the Agon, which is a sort of week within every 7 years in which the gods and goddesses can be attacked, and if you kill them, then you then take on their power. So our main character Lore is not a direct god or goddess, but she is a descendant of Perseus, and it tells you her story of building alliances and trying to figure out what's really going on within the background of things and trying to survive the Aegon. There is a lot of really cool dynamics within the story, and it doesn't feel super fantasy heavy after the first chunk. And unfortunately, that's how a lot of fantasies are. You have to get through the world building, and then things start to pick up and make a little bit more sense. So if you do read this book and you're not a big fantasy person, you just have to get through that first chunk, and it is worth it. I wish this would have become a series, and I kind of think that the author made a mistake not doing that, because there are so many different veins in which this could have gone, and it could have lasted and been stretched a lot longer. I know it's only a week, but we could have gotten a little bit more. So that was my big complaint, but still 4 stars and still highly recommend. My husband has read this over and over and over through the years.
The streets are also saying that this is potentially a TV show in the works. But
by who?
I don't know. I saw that on Facebook, so you know it's 100%
yeah, it's
true.
Totally true.
So
totally true. Well, there we have it. So hopefully that is true, and hopefully Facebook is not lying to us again. That would be amazing to see this on the screen, just because I do think it would be really beautiful visuals based on the descriptions within the book. So if you like Greek, this is definitely a book for you. And if you don't like Greek, I still recommend that you try, because this was definitely unexpected love for me. Next on the list is Mad About You by Vari McFarlane. I have been dying to get into this author's writing because of Haley Pham, who I watch religiously, and she loves her, has basically, I think, rated every single book of hers 5 stars, or at least above 4. So I really, really wanted to get into this. I rated this one 4 stars. So basically, she is engaged to someone who she loves but is not in love with. He's a good guy for the most part, but it's just not working out, and she realizes that she needs to end it whenever he proposes. So she moves in with a roommate to try and restart her life. Basically, this is her love story with said roommate. So there's not a lot that I can tell you, but I will tell you that Vari McFarlane focuses on toxic exes. So if you've ever had a toxic relationship in the past, this can be a little rough to read, because it's just so frustrating and you want to scream at the main character, which is nice because you're like, oh, that's what my friends wanted to do to me. Got it. I understand why they thought I looked so stupid. But it does show you kind of the outside perspective of it, which is refreshing and helps you to kind of have like an introspective look on your life if you have had toxic exes. But you need to know that going in, because I did not know that, and that was a little confusing at first. I was like, what is this thing? But that is her focus. She constantly writes about toxic relationships and toxic exes. So if that's something you're into, Vari McFarlane, big hit. I want to read more of these books, and she has so many out. Unfortunately, she's a big author, but she's not a big author. So a lot of times when I go to bookstores, she's not there, she's not available, whatever. So if there's any that I need to order that are totally worth it, please let me know, because I want to read more of Vari McFarlane. In our year timeline, we are in that March zone. So next is Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. Next 5-star book of 2025. So good, so good, so good. I did not read Hunger Games in middle school. I read it later in life because my husband is just about the biggest Hunger Games fan in the entire world. He's insane. Like, let me show you his copies. These are his copies. So it was kind of expected that I read that at some point. And it was really sweet because when I did read the series, I finally realized that some of the things he says to me and things that he calls me are from that. And so tears, all of that, right? So of course I had to read the new book, and Sunrise on the Reaping focuses on Haymitch's stories of when he was in the games. And it starts on the Reaping because Reaping is his birthday. So it's just so good. I will cry when I watch the movie. You will probably cry when you read it. It was just beautifully done, and I would argue that this is the best one in the series, which is crazy because already they're all so good. But it was absolutely so well done because it tied in the original series, it tied in Songbirds and Snakes, like it just, everything melded together and became so intentional. My only note for Suzanne, first of all, how dare you, because my heart, But on a real note, it felt a little Disney Channel in some ways, in which everything was connected. Every single person was involved in this storyline, and it was just a little forced in that aspect and a little bit repetitive. But I understand when you have such a huge fan base like this, something like Harry Potter, something like Game of Thrones, that connection across storylines is what sells books. So I understand 100% why she did it. I just think it was a little much, a little too perfect, you know? But the storyline itself is insane, and it really gives you a deep dive into Haymitch and shows you the parallels between Haymitch and Katniss. So if you have not read this book, this is a 100% must read. 5 stars. So good. And also it's beautiful, which is just a perk. So I'm very excited to talk about this book. This is Beautiful Ugly by Alice Feeney, and I read this book during my travel vlog, so feel free to go ahead and watch that. This book is such a great example of thrillers and why you should read thrillers. The twists were great. All the kind of links being made were great. And there's a secret hidden message within the book, which is so cute for a little, like, baby nerd like me. Whenever I was reading the 39 Clues book, this was, like, just what I needed. This was one of the Book of the Month selections, and I'm not sure why the cover looks like this. It's kind of annoying, but overall the book was really good. I rated this 5 stars, so that is a third 5-star book for 2025. I say that I love thrillers, but I always read Freida McFadden, like very, very tacky, cheesy little thrillers, and this felt a lot more elevated and kind of a more mature thriller. So I definitely recommend this if you enjoy thrillers. It was so good, and it did have some narratives on some other major issues too, so that was definitely interesting. Another book from that travel vlog was Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens, and I have been recommended this book so many times because I grew up in a sort of country environment, by no means like this. I grew up pretty poor, by no means like this. So people always recommend it to me. By no means is this my childhood. So if you're one of the people who've been recommending me that for this reason, we need to sit down and have a chat, because this is not the life I was living. And if that's what you think, things are confusing. Overall, this book was really, really good. I rated it 3.5 stars. It is a little mysterious and kind of eerie feeling when it shouldn't be. It jumps back and forth in timelines based on a murder that happens within the story later on in the child's life. So I honestly could have done without that storyline. I wish I could have just had her childhood, and maybe they did a second. I don't know. I was okay without it. The movie was great. The book was great. I'm glad I read it. Was not life-changing by any means, but it did definitely pull on the heartstrings and show what true love can look like and understanding of someone to a complete extent. He truly did understand what she needed and what was required of her. She needed to stay where she was. She needed to be by herself. It was just what was better for her. So I did love that true love and understanding of a person. Like, to be loved is to be known. So that storyline within this is really, really beautiful. The last 2 books of 2025, I do not have the physical copies of. So the first one was The Love Elixir of Augusta Stern. This was a huge recommendation by one of my best friends, and she spoke so highly of it, so I had to read it. And that was probably 6 months ago. I finally got it available on Libby and read through it. I rated this book 4 stars. So this story takes the perspective of a pharmacist who grew up raised by a pharmacist, but also raised by, como se dice, a witch, okay? But more so a healer, more so she's a beautiful woman, okay? So she learns to make this love elixir. It shows her story as a child, and then it shows her story as an 85-year-old, or I think that's how old she is, woman who is now retired and is living in a retirement community and runs into her first love. And it's this confusion of miscommunication and all of that. And normally I hate the miscommunication trope, but I think it was pretty cute in this one. And it was also really cute to have a love story about a senior citizen. Like, love that. I do love how the story came together in the end. The last book that I have read for 2025 was The Perfect Divorce by Geneva Rose. And this is The Perfect Marriage by Geneva Rose, which was one of the very first books I read as an adult, like diving back into reading. And I can't remember if this one, but I think this is one that I read in like one sitting. I was just so captivated by it. And I was so excited for the second book. I rated it 2.7 star. 2.75 stars. It wasn't necessary. It wasn't necessary at all. We did not need that book. I still like Geneva Rose. I want to read more of her books, but this kind of felt like a cash grab. Wasn't necessary at all. And it didn't even dive into what I wanted it to dive into, because the end of this book lets you off at this crazy reveal, and you suddenly like know all this about this main character, and you want to know what she did and how she did it and how did it happen and blah, 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 blah. And the second book is like 8 years later and she's married, or 12 years later or something like that, and she's married and has a kid. Like I didn't want the timeline jump. I just wanted to know what happened after this. So personally, not a fan, but I read it and it's done, and 2.75 stars is what it got. This is everything for 2025, excluding some of the ones I read on my Kindle. If you ever feel like you haven't been reading that much, try and carry them, because suddenly I feel like I read so much this year. This is so much. That concludes my first reading wrap up of 2025. I read 19 books. I had an average rating of 3.87 stars, which I personally think is pretty high. There was a few duds in there, but I need to end this reading slump. So please let me know what you're reading now and what I should read next. I'll see you next time on Books with Beck. Love you, bye. I am now realizing that I have to put all of these back, so.
Book Husband here. Like and subscribe. Love you. Bye.